All right, thank you. All right, we will call the legislative meeting to order. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the acknowledgement. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I will read the statement of acknowledgement and honor of Indigenous and diverse communities. We begin this meeting with acknowledgement of and honor for the many legacies that have impacted our community, particularly those buried over time. Acknowledging truth is critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and differences. Cheltenham Township stands within the Lenape-Hoking, I can never pronounce that, the ancestral homeland of the Lenape civilization. These people were and still are caretakers of this land and its rivers, and their legacy continues. We pay respect to their elders, past and present. Our community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contributed to their hopes, dreams, and energy to making the history that led to this moment. Some were brought here against their will. Others were drawn to leave their distant homes in the hope of a better life. And some have lived on this land for more generations than can be counted. Please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together. As a school district committed to fostering intellectual curiosity and discourse in the service of social justice, join us in uncovering such truths. And now, Ms. Harding will provide the roll call for the board.
Ms. Blitzstein.
Ms. Blitzstein is not present.
Mr. Burdell-Williams.
Present.
Mr. Epps.
Present.
Ms. Henry.
Present.
Ms. Lohman.
Present.
Ms. Mulhern.
Present.
Ms. Murphy.
Present.
Mr. Schultz.
Present.
And Dr. Whiting.
Present.
Thank you. That concludes the roll call.
Thank you, Ms. Harding. We will have public comments on agenda items only. If you are watching this via Zoom or streaming, you can, if you're watching this via Zoom, you can raise your hand and you would be unmuted if you wish to make a comment. Or you can email CSD board meeting comments at cheltenham.org. And I don't see any hands raised. So we will move on to recognitions that will be provided by Mr. Hoff from Cheltenham High School.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Hoff. I'm one of the vice principals at the high school. Dr. Hammond was unavailable this evening. First off, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to represent and celebrate our high school community this evening. First off, if we the next slide, please. Today, I want to celebrate the work that our students do in the fine arts. The next 6 slides represent a preview of the 2025 annual high school arts exhibition. All of this artwork is currently installed in our boardroom, and I hope that you have the opportunity to view it in person over the next several weeks. Each year, students in the arts at Cheltenham High School create a dazzling display of artwork, which represents the range of talents in the field of fine arts. This year, you will see portraits, still life, fantasy drawings, sculptures, graphic design, digital illustration, digital photography. These CHS artists worked in a variety of mediums. Next month, many of our finest works will be on display in the PSEA 38th Annual High School Touch the Future Student Art Show at Montgomery County Community College in Bluebell. This will be from March 2nd to 27th. The works displayed in the PSEA exhibition showcase a mastery of technique, seamlessly interwoven with expressive depth and a keen sensitivity to materials. You'll also be able to view these exceptional artworks and more at our annual CHS Art Show held in May this year. The wonderful work of these students is made possible in part by our teachers, who are helping to nurture the next generation of artists and creative leaders. The teachers involved in this work are Adam Farrell, Stephanie Jackson, Marav Novinsky, Lori Oliveras, who is the Department Chair of Art, Michael Oliveras, and Lauren Scheip. Next slide, please. I'd like to provide an overview of some of the stuff that's happened over the last 5 weeks and then conclude with some stuff that'll be happening over the next 6. Since the start of this new year, we've had an experience a whirlwind of activity and student successes at Cheltenham High School. I want to take a few minutes to provide some highlights, including this one. So we started our new semester on January 27th. It generated a significant amount of positive energy as both students and teachers experienced aspects of that first day of school. Most of our students changed 4, 5, or 6 of their classes. Students in our performing arts, project-based learning program, world language classes, and AP classes largely remained with their same classmates and teachers. This mix of old and new experiences definitely helped re-energize and build a positive climate in the building for both students and teachers alike. Next slide, please. Before we changed semesters, we did administer our Keystone exams for the first semester. 528 Keystone exams were given for students who concluded courses of biology, Algebra 1, and English 10. As part of the Act 158 Pathways to Graduation, each Keystone exam was administered over the course of 2 days. We look forward to receiving the results back this spring and using those results to strengthen our instructional program. Next slide, please. Through our social media feed, we highlight many of the successes that our students have both inside and outside of the classroom. For instance, a few hours ago, we highlighted the achievements of Adora Abdul, who will be the first Cheltenham student in at least the last 15 years to perform in the All-Eastern Music Festival to be held in Hartford, Connecticut in April. Additionally, Adora planned her instructional program to graduate a full year early. I also want to note the addition of Sam Sheridan, our new athletic director. He's been a wonderful addition to our community, and he wanted me to highlight some specific experiences our students have had this winter. In boys wrestling, AJ Gordon earned his 97th career win at the annual William Tennant Invitational this past Saturday. He pinned 4 straight opponents en route to that title and now looks to become the second wrestler in school history with 100 career wins. In indoor track, Noah Ryan was a meet of champion qualifier in the 60-meter high hurdles. Bryce Gaither was a qualifier in meet of champions and the state indoor championship in long jump. Jordan Grady, meet of champion and state qualifier in the 60-meter high hurdles, also qualified in the 200-meter dash. Nathan Hoffman, meet of champs qualifier, state qualifier in the high jump. Nathan also established a new school record in the pentathlon, which had stood for 28 years. William Edgar qualified for meet of champions in the 1-mile run, 3,000-meter run, and the distant medley. He qualified also for state championships. Our swimming and diving program, we had 130 total personal best swims and dives this season. 4 diving records were broken by Addie Lee. 1 diving district qualifier came from Finn Boyle. 1 swimming district qualifier and gold medal winner, Alistair Reese, in the 550 and 100 free. We had SOL Freedom Division champ winners Finn Boyle and Johnny Ration, who both won gold and silver medals. In the girls' 200 medley relay, Emma Nicosia, Eddie Lee, Carmen Bonner, and Giselle Bonner won bronze medals. Next slide, please. The next 2 slides focus on thinking about what our next year is going to look like as our students reflect on their experiences from this year and are planning towards their future. On Friday, delayed by the ice for 1 day, 84 of our projected 104 new Eastern Center applicants toured the Eastern facility with both meeting teachers and students. As Mr. Burdell William consistently highlights for our community, Eastern is a spectacular resource for our students. Students were impressed with both the quality of offerings and the quality of the facility. Enrolling at Eastern is a multi-step process without a guaranteed placement. I personally spoke with several students who started the day with some interest in Eastern and ended it with a very specific short-term goal of gaining entry into their preferred program. Next slide, please. The final experience that I want to focus on from the past 5 weeks is an example of our student leadership in action. Earlier this school year, members of our superintendent's council identified the lack of individual interaction around course selection between the high school and our rising ninth graders at Cedarbrook is something that we needed to address. Students from that council, our cultural ambassador program, our freshman transition program, and our project-based learning program came together to develop short presentations that gave inside individual Cedarbrook classrooms last week. These presentations were designed by students for students. Eighth grade students participated in 5 different sessions, each of which allowed them to ask questions to our high school students in small group settings. The feedback from the experience was tremendously positive, and we hope to refine the experience for next year. Next slide, please. I spent the last several minutes focusing on the last 5 weeks. I'd like to lift up some of the events happening in the next 6 weeks. This Friday, we have 2 significant events happening at the high school. Our Cavalcade Jazz Festival is this Friday, and it brings musicians from around the area to our high school. It is a high energy ticketed event if you're available. Another high energy ticketed event is our boys basketball home playoff game. Our boys basketball team won its 6th league championship in the past 7 years. On the 19th, our girls basketball team are undefeated in our league, first Suburban 1 League champion since 2012 girls basketball team, with junior Maya Simmons as a 1,000-point scorer, will also host a home playoff game. On the day before, order by sport, not by date, next Tuesday we'll host a dual enrollment family webinar, which I expect to be well attended. There's been a lot of buzz in the building about students really interested in dual enrollment opportunities, and I expect to see significant growth in that those offerings and students taking it over the next 2 years. On February 26th, our annual Vocal Arts Coffee House will be held. It is an excellent opportunity for any community member to come in and see our students in a small setting. On Friday, March 7th, our annual Blue and Gold event will happen. This is an amazing evening, closed to the public, where hundreds of our students compete and show their school spirit. We are hoping to harness this energy in other ways during the school year by leveraging our Blue and Gold activities with our PBIS process. Last 2 things I want to highlight. On March 12th, our Advanced Chamber Orchestra Ensemble will be performing on the evening of March 12th. If you've never heard them perform, there are links on our website to hear them, and I highly recommend that you come in person to see them. And finally, if you can hear the theme song in your head, Cheltenham Musical Theater will be proudly performing The Addams Family in late March. I've seen bits and pieces of this in rehearsal already, and it is going to be amazing. This concludes my presentation, and thank you again for this opportunity to represent and lift up our high school community.
Thank you, Mr. Hoff. Next, we will have the Cheltenham High School Student Council Report by Ms. Zori Bent. And Zori, you can unmute yourself.
Hello. Okay, so it was supposed to be Emma, but I'll do it really quickly. 1 second. Good evening, school board members. My name is Zuri. The Cheltenham Student Council met on Wednesday, January 15th. I will now read out the updates. Our environmental committee is planning a mini lesson to teach at Glenside Elementary, and a potential thrift sale is in the works. Easter Seals was a success, and our charity committee is collaborating on a food drive in partnership with the Willow Grove Food Pantry during Super Bowl week from February 3rd to the 7th. The class of 2026 is having a Valentine's Day raffle from the 31st to February 12th. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Bent. Mr. Diazio will report on sunshine announcements.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Henry. The board has not met in executive session since the last legislative board meeting, so there are no executive sessions to announce this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diazio. Dr. Scriven will present his superintendent report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I will give Mr. Kaufman just an opportunity to cue that up. There it is. My report, as always, I like to try to stay focused on our work, and we'll be giving you an overview of some of the things which the administrative team and respective schoolhouses are currently engaged in as we continue with the implementation of our strategic plan. Next slide, please. As always, we like to highlight our mission and our vision, and you will see through this presentation really what some of our core values are with respect to where our focus to detail currently is. Next slide, please. So first and foremost, we are responsible as a district for making sure we are giving every student high quality instructional leadership. It starts in my office and trickles all the way down to our teachers, and you see that manifested or transferred to our student outcomes and their lived daily experiences. What are some of the key elements of what a high quality instructional leader should entail? Strong leadership teams set clear goals. You'll see some of that as we move through our artifacts and evidence. The principals act as instructional leaders in this continuous improvement process. That is something that we have really been lasered focus on as we are building the capacity of our principals and their instructional leadership. So subsequently, you see that transferred as they're building the capacity of their instructional leadership teams. You also see the elements of data driven decision making. And some of the implementation specifically is around our training programs and different case studies, which we do in the form of a problem of practice. Next slide, please. Strong curriculum and instructional content or coherence, excuse me. Alignment is everything. And when you look at the curriculum, it's imperative that we stay focused on standard-based curricular and consistency. Why is that? Well-structured curriculum aligned with Common Core and Pennsylvania Common Core provides consistency across our schools. You often hear me talk about our need to break out of silos, and we are currently working on systems and structures where you see cohesiveness across the district. If you're in an elementary, there should be a like elementary experience as it relates to curriculum happening in each one of our first grade classrooms, regardless of what elementary a student may be sitting in. This ensures that all students, regardless of school or teacher, have access to that same high quality and ultimately eliminates gaps caused by inconsistence in continuity and also curriculum delivery. Frequent formative assessments are really used as progress monitoring to identify learning gaps. Continuous assessment allows educators to monitor progress in real time. If you go in to any classroom on any given day, you should see some type of formative or exit ticket that teachers are using in order to assess students' ability to demonstrate mastery of whatever that mastery objective was for that given day. It helps prevent students from falling behind by addressing their gaps in skills in a proactive manner. I do give kudos to the district as we continue to really try to optimize our win period, which is specifically used to try to reteach, engage, or enrich or accelerate students based on where they are on the continuum of learning. Research-based instructional strategies for diverse learners are simply methods grounded in research to accommodate different learning styles. We often hear about the importance of differentiation. You have your kinesthetic, you have your visual. All of our teachers are equipped to make sure that they are delivering instruction which hits each one of those modalities. It supports equitable access to education by ensuring that all students receive instruction tailored for their needs. And it occurrences, again, the differentiated instruction. And where we're really focused right now, especially at our elementary level, is on our small group learning and how we are really using data to drive meeting the unique needs of each and every student within the classroom. Also, when you talk about the importance of common pacing guides in our PLC process, that alignment is critical as teachers are meeting within teams as PLCs or within a grade, and having robust conversation around best practices that are working or identifying areas where things could be enhanced. That facilitation of collaboration among teachers really ensures that we can benefit from the collective intellect which each unique teacher brings to the table. It enables district-wide analysis of student performance data for targeted support. Data supporting impact. Districts that have implemented aligned curriculum strategies have seen improved standardized testing, and that is our hope as we continue to move through this year. You just heard Mr. Hoff allude to the assessments that were just given at the high school. It will be interesting for us to look at that data and measure it over years, which is what we call trend data. Next slide, please. This slide is just an example of the curriculum framework at grade 3 for math. And it's simply a visual representation of what each grade 3 math teacher has as their roadmap as they're moving through the scope and sequence of the curriculum. Next slide, please. And this is an example of grade 3 ELA. Similar visual representation where you can see the overarching unit, the specific standards, and then the anchors or eligible content. And this is something that we have in place at every school, at every grade currently in math and ELA K through 6. Next slide, please. When we talk about professional development and continuous learning, we're talking about job-embedded professional learning communities, which you heard me reference earlier as our PLCs, which provide those structured opportunities, again, for collaboration, to analyze student data, and to refine instructional practices. It also encourages collective problem solving, which I mentioned, and promotes consistency across classrooms and grade levels, ensuring alignment with district goals. Training on evidence-based teacher practices ensures teachers use research-based instructional strategies tailored for diverse learners. It helps education stay current with evolving pedagogical approaches and curriculum shifts. And there's also strengthens differentiating instruction. And you heard me allude to this before with our small group interventions and culturally responsive teaching. We also have a strong coaching and mentoring component, and also our induction program where we really try to hone in on our first, second, and third year teachers and make sure that they are receiving the support needed to build their toolkit to make sure that they're equipped to deliver the high quality instruction which we expect. Next slide, please. Data-driven decision-making. When we talk about a data infrastructure, it's to monitor student progress. A robust data system enables schools to monitor academic performance, attendance, and behavior trends over time. It helps identify struggling students early, allowing for timely interventions, and ensures accountability in meeting district-wide goals for students' growth and achievement. Data-informed instruction and targeted interventions enable teachers to use their formative assessments and benchmarks as a data tool where they're able to adjust their instruction based on what the data is telling them. It empowers educators to use actionable insights rather than assumptions when planning for instruction. You guys are hearing about our MTSS probably anytime you're walking into any one of our schoolhouses. And those are interventions and supports. You will see a lot of work also around our PBIS models, but our frameworks, as you know, afford us an opportunity to address academic and behavioral data in a proactive manner rather than always being reactive. Impact data driven interventions reduce achievement gaps. You guys know that there is disproportionality within our student groups. We're hoping to continuously use data in real time as a data analysis to see significant reductions in some of these learning gaps. We're targeting interventions based on data-led and measurable gains in reading and also on math proficiency. That's somewhere where we're really honing in on to make sure that our students are on grade prior to matriculating. This is a area of need right now, as we do not have students K through 3 that are all on grade, and it is something that we have our elementary teachers and principals really taking a close look at. If you can go to the next slide, please. So I know this is hard to see, but when we talk about data analytics and tools, this is a IXL resource which we use, and it simply provides personalized skill practice in math, ELA, science, and social studies, adapting to the student performance. It helps teachers track mastery of skills and pinpoint areas where students need additional support. It also enables continuous reinforcement of learning, ensuring students close knowledge gaps at their own pace. Next slide, please. This year we have incorporated FastBridge. FastBridge integrates academic and behavioral assessments to identify students at risk for learning difficulties. We're using it as a research-based screening and progress monitoring to help educators implement timely interventions. And we support that through our multi-tiered system of support, or MTSS, by providing data-driven insights on which students need additional services. Next slide, please. And this last artifact is just Link It, which is a comprehensive data analysis and assessment management resource. Link It consolidates data from multiple sources, including benchmark assessments, standardized tests, and classroom evaluations. It provides customized reports and dashboards for educators to analyze trends in student achievement. It supports data-driven decision-making by helping schools refine curriculum pacing, adjust instructional strategies, and monitor interventions effectively. Next slide, please. When we talk about equity and access for all students, it's really what I was alluding to earlier around closing opportunity and achievement gaps. Equitable access to rigorous instruction, I use that keyword again, rigorous instruction, is ensuring all students, including historically marginalized groups, engage in standard-based, high-quality curricula. Differentiated instruction and personalized learning using our MTSS and data-driven interventions to meet students at their level. Culturally responsive teaching recognizes and values our students' cultural backgrounds to enhance engagement and relevance in learning. Next slide, please. When we talk about our inclusive education strategies, there's a myriad of strategies that we are currently using to support both our EL and our students with disability, dual language, professional development for our educators is critical in this area in terms of inclusivity and teacher best practices. And it's something that we really have a laser focus on, because the only way that we're going to close our achievement gaps is make sure that we're exhibiting these practices each and every day in each and every classroom. And you can go to the next slide. We are nothing without our families, and strong parent engagement and collaborative partnerships between schools and districts is essential to us supporting the whole child. I can say that without a doubt, that is one of the strong suits of Cheltenham School District. We will see over time, through this engagement and collaboration, the academic growth and achievement that we are aspiring for. It also assists with our social emotional development of our students, making sure that we are aligned and that there's a strong home and school connection, which provides students with support systems that nurtures confidence, perseverance, and a growth mindset. We want our students to have grit. We want them to persevere. We want them to bridge through. The equity and access to all of our resources, again, will bridge the opportunity gaps, will strengthen our community partnerships, and we all serve as advocates for our students in terms of making sure they're getting that high quality instruction that they're so deserving of. Next slide, please. This is just a snapshot, and it's interesting that this happens to be from Elkins Park and one of the events that they had celebrating students. And you can see that parents were invited out, and this is just a snippet of that activity where they had cocoa with students, and I thought that resonated. I saw a hand, Ms. Lohman. Is there a question? I know that's not protocol.
No.
Next slide, please. So when we talk about efficiency and operations and resources, this is just making sure that our budget, and we're doing a better job, as you can see as a board, of making sure that we're aligning our budget and the financial resources to the pillars within our strategic plan. You can go to the next slide. We're trying to directly support instructional goals. We're aligning funds with the data-driven needs. We're promoting equity. And we're making sure that we are, to the best of our ability, maintaining our facilities to support learning and student well-being. A piece of this, which often can go overlooked, is just technology, and we're benefiting from that tonight as we had to pivot and go virtual, but expands access to digital learning tools. We're supporting data-driven decision-making through some of those resources I showed you, IXL, FastBridge, Linkit, and just trying to maximize student outcomes by making sure our money is being pushed in or allocated where we see the greatest need. Next slide, please. The importance of having a positive school culture. You know, I always say that it's hard to move initiatives if you don't have a school culture that is one which is growth oriented. We try to have a safe and supportive learning environment, stronger student-teacher relationships. We've really been honing in on that at the high school. Providing behavioral supports. You see that through our PBIS programs throughout the district. And just really teacher effectiveness and retention. We know that there is a teacher shortage. We have to make sure that we are supporting our teachers and support staff and not losing them. Next slide, please. This is just a snapshot, and you guys, I believe, should be familiar where twice a year we do send out a perception survey. And this is where our stakeholders have an opportunity to truly have a voice in terms of what is working for them. Along that right side is a list of questions that were actually presented, and it just shows you hypothetically where we landed in terms of clientele or customer satisfaction based on the delivery of our services to the district. Next slide, please. This board can definitely appreciate governance and policy implementation. We find ourselves constantly revisiting that as times and our climate continues to change on a more holistic scale. We're coming back to the table more frequently to make sure that our policy is giving us what we need to appropriately govern. And this is something that Mr. Diophill shared, the next slide, which is just a snapshot of all the work. And it's actually bigger than this. This is probably one of 3 pages where you guys actually have memorialized all of the policies that we have revisited, the year that they were reviewed, the last time they were reviewed, and what actions were taken. So the work that's been done here is really commendable over the last, I'll probably say 8 years or so. Next slide, please. The importance of innovation and future-ready learning. Our technology, our need to be innovative as we're under this age of AI and artificial intelligence. We have to stay current as we have jobs that when our students graduate, they haven't even been existed yet or created yet, and those will be the jobs that they will be stepping in. We have to make sure that we stay relevant. This next slide is a snapshot, I believe, of just some of that work that's happening within our classrooms at some of the lowest levels. You can go ahead, Mr. Goff. I can't control the volume. I know there was volume to that as well. Some of those hands-on experiences are really where our students strive the best. And things that would be dreams really will become realities through innovation. So a critical part of what we do. Next slide, please. Effective implementation leads to higher student achievement. This is a snapshot, and believe me, it was 34 pages. I cut this down to 15 for the sake of time. But I do want to go to the next slide, where I would be remiss not to recognize that this is February and Black History Month. We will be having a culminating activity up at the high school on Tuesday, February 25th from 6:30 to 8:30. I would ask that all board members please put that on your calendar. It's when our schools and our students have an opportunity to really showcase what African-American history means to them. And we have vendors, and it's just a time to really show what, as a district, we stand for. And Madam Chair, I will turn it back to you as that concludes my report for tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Scriven, for that comprehensive report. We will start with our committee reports. I'm providing the update from the Financial Affairs meeting, which took place on Tuesday, February 4th, 2025, in person and hybrid format. Mr. Swiger, our Director of Business Services, reviewed interim financial statements of the district through January 31st, 2025, including a statement of changes in net assets and the balance sheet. We also reviewed the Act 1 and budget process timeline and stated the preliminary budget will be presented for the board to vote on at this February legislative meeting. We were provided an overview of the district's revenue and expenditure streams, budget projections through the end of fiscal year 2028, and a review of the proposed state budget. Board actions that we will vote on this evening are a roof change order for the high school building, the Cheltenham High School stadium approvals, which are the turf field and track resurfacing. We will also be voting on the MCIU budget. Our next Financial Affairs Committee meeting is on Tuesday, March 4th, 2025, following the Facilities Committee meeting. And that concludes my report. Dr. Whiting will provide the Educational Affairs update.
Thank you, Madam President. The Educational Affairs Committee met at 7 p.m. on January 21st, 2025 in a hybrid format in the Administration Building and via Zoom. Assistant Superintendent Savage presented the 2025-2028 Comprehensive Plan, emphasizing continuous school improvement and addressing key challenges within the district. Due on March 31st, 2025, the plan reflects input from multiple stakeholders and focuses on curriculum, instruction, assessment, professional development, supportive learning environments, and community involvement. 4 priorities with specific goals were outlined: reducing school transitions, improving attendance, redesigning math, ELA, and STEM curriculum, and increasing student engagement with a particular emphasis on students with disabilities and students from traditionally marginalized and underrepresented racial groups. Action plans are underway, and the plan will be posted for a 28-day public comment period before the submission in late March. The presentation led to a discussion about accountability, transition strategies, culturally responsive teaching, and high-quality instructional materials. Board members emphasized the importance of measurable goals, evidence-based strategies for transitions, and aligning policies and instructional materials. Community and parent involvement was highlighted with a focus on improved communication and partnership opportunities. Ms. Flood and Ms. Gurman then presented plans and frameworks to integrate artificial intelligence into Cheltenham curriculum, teaching, and learning. They emphasized the need to prepare students for a rapidly changing world by developing their AI literacy. An AI work group has been formed to develop a comprehensive plan, promote professional development for all staff, and explore AI as a tool for problem solving and critical thinking, with an emphasis on the importance of parental consent and understanding the limitations of AI. The group also discussed the way AI can be implemented to enhance learning to ensure equitable access for students, the safeguards needed to protect student data and privacy, and the ways the professional development might be used to increase teachers' knowledge and responsible implementation of AI in their classrooms and course materials. I also want to take a minute to highlight Ms. Flood and Ms. Gurman for their thorough work in examining the use of AI in Cheltenham. As someone who uses AI nearly every day, I'm looking forward to learning more about how we can support our students in gaining the critical thinking skills necessary to use it effectively. The next Educational Affairs Committee meeting will be on Tuesday, February 18th at 7 p.m. in a hybrid format, both in room 102 in the Administration Building and on Zoom. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Whiting. Mr. Burdell Williams will provide the Eastern Center for Arts and Technology update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Eastern Center for Arts and Technology did not meet in January. However, our February meeting is scheduled for tomorrow, February 12th at 8 p.m., and that meeting will be held via Zoom. The link to the meeting can be found on Eastern's website, along with a number of other updates and board briefs and minutes from previous JOC meetings at eastech.org. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Burdell Williams. Ms. Mulhern will provide the, Ms. Lohman will provide the MCIU update.
Thank you. The Montgomery County Intermediate Unit Board met on Wednesday, January 2nd, 2025 at the MCIU's main office in Norristown and over Zoom. I was not in attendance at that meeting, but I can give a few highlights from it. One in particular, at the meeting, the MCIU board approved the IU's 2025-2026 district membership services budget. We are going to be voting on whether or not to accept and fund the Cheltenham's portion of that budget tonight. Later on in the agenda, Cheltenham is being asked to pay $53,637 as their portion of the IU's membership services budget, which does provide us with quite a bit of support in the areas of government relations support, Office of Technological Services, and Office of Organizational and Professional Learning. A few other things that the MCIU board voted on was to provide business office support to the North Penn School District, to engage in an internship agreement with East Stroudsburg University. And the next MCIU board meeting will be on Wednesday, February 26th at 6:45 p.m. at the IU's main offices in Norristown and also over Zoom. This ends my report.
Thank you, Ms. Lohman. Mr. Epps will provide the policy. No. Ms. Mulhern will provide the liaison group update.
Madam Chair, I think first policy, facilities. Now I can't say the right meeting. I'll do the facilities report first. All right, thank you.
Sorry about that.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Facilities
okay.
update, then followed by
Okay.
the liaison update.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Henry. I come to you tonight. This is my first report for the Facilities Committee, where I joined Mr. Burdell Williams and Ms. Blitzstein for this year. And I am excited for the opportunity. The Facilities Committee met on Tuesday, February 4th, 2025 in a hybrid format. After approving the minutes from the January meeting, Mr. Holman and Mr. Swigert began the presentation with a review of the items in our long-range capital plan, including Cedar Brook and Glenside additions, the Cheltenham High School Stadium project, the CHS roof project, as well as HVAC, and then work at the administration building. We will continue to receive capital plan updates in future Facilities Committee meetings. Representatives from KCBA, our architecture firm, and SiteLogic, our construction management firm, reviewed in-progress items for the high school stadium project. The construction is planned to begin at the end of the school year and to be completed in time for the football season. All bids and plans are made with that timeline in mind. As Ms. Henry mentioned, we will be approving tonight a bid for artificial turf and synthetic track. Mr. Swigert then gave an update on the upcoming roofing project at the high school, and in order to receive the maximum reimbursement for a state facilities improvement grant, there is a change order that we will also be approving this evening to maximize the grant for us. The next Facilities Committee meeting will be held in person and via Zoom on Tuesday, March 4th, 2025 at 7 p.m. And that concludes my report. I will
Thank
move
you.
right into the liaison report.
You can move
Great,
right into
thank
the
you, Ms.
liaison
Henry.
report, Ms.
All right.
Mulhern. Yes.
The liaison group met on Monday, January 27th at 8 a.m. via Zoom with elected officials and administrative representatives from both the township and the school district. Items discussed included updates on Elkins Park School and the options being considered for the next 2 years, a celebration of longtime CHS cheer coach Dolly Leeds with Cheltenham Sports Youth Cheer and CHS Athletics, traffic calming efforts for the elementary schools, updates on the Lamont Community Center improvements. Groundbreaking is expected late fall. The township has a number of citizen committee openings that we encourage any interested community members to apply to. Any changes to the elected tax collector position have been tabled indefinitely, and the township is beginning plans for celebrations for the semi-quincentennial in 2026. The next meeting has not yet been determined, but will be added to the future meeting schedule when it is. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mulhern. Mr. Epps will provide a policy committee update followed by the legislative update. So you can move right into both of those.
Thank you, Madam President. And I guess I'll take a point of privilege. We're not often virtual, so I'm not at my desk, but wanted to show I have these thank you notes at my desk. I wanted to just read one quickly from Kennedy Johnson from EP. It says, and I just happened to pick one from EP as well. Thank you for making sure that we have an amazing school event. We have an amazing school events and hiring caring teachers. And then a student from Wyncote wrote, thank you, or room 204, thank you for all the great books we have. Our library has so many books. So that was touching for me, even though we've passed that day. So thank you to those who have sent us appreciation. And tonight, this report is in reference to the policy committee meeting that we had on January 28th, 2025. And it was very appropriate for the time that we have. And I appreciate tonight's superintendent report because we heard that our mission is the same, right? We are a district that's committed to providing inspiration and resources to every single student, no matter your identity, no matter your background, no matter your beliefs. And so we did have, and that's not a matter of opinion. It's not just our mission. We have a policy, 829, that calls on us as a board, us as and the administration, staff, teachers, students, to continue to dismantle institutional barriers that really make race and other learning and other types of groups predictors, unfortunately, for success. So I appreciate the mention that of how that mission rings true in our efforts even to this day, and how we'll continue to do that. Even so, as you'll see in our agenda tonight, we do have 8 policies that are up for adoption. And even in those policies, we reviewed things like gender expansive and our policy on gender expansive and transgender students, hazing, bullying, and harassment. And so, again, as a matter of state and federal and some state and some federal law, there are protections in place for students, right? We know there's some conversations happening in our community and other communities around identity, but again, we have policies, we have rules in place that really show and dictate how we will care for and inspire and provide resources for our students. There's also policies up for adoption that you can look at our agenda and on board docs online around students experiencing homelessness, foster care and other educational instability, homebound instruction, student wellness, as well as confidential communications of students. And so those have gone through multiple rounds of review by our committee and board, and the policies that are listed for first read won't receive official votes tonight, but will go back to our committee for another round of review. Please do. Anyone who's interested in what are the rules and who's in charge and how the district applies these policies, feel free to reach out to us as a board with any of your questions and concerns, and even come out to our meeting. Our next meeting is on March 25th, 2025. Where we will be streamed virtually on Zoom, but also be held in person at the administration building. So that'll conclude my policy committee report for tonight. And I'll segue right into the legislative committee report. As I'm a member, just like every other school district, school entity within Montgomery County, we all come together periodically to discuss proposed and past legislation that impacts the Commonwealth, but more particularly education and education here in Cheltenham. So there was some big news over the last week or so for those who've been tracking. We're not just in budget season as our district, right? The Commonwealth is in budget season as well. And the governor publicly presented his proposal for the next fiscal year. And so as that relates to education, we saw again last year, there was a Supreme Court case related to, and that really said the Commonwealth is not adequately funding public schools. Last year, school funding was increased, which was presented as a down payment toward that $4.5 billion or so funding gap. And this year, the proposal so far, in some ways, we haven't heard some of that same language, but there is currently a proposal to increase school funding by about $500 million again, which is somewhat less than last year's proposal, but right in line, roughly in line with to make up for inflation, the rise in costs that school districts have experienced. And so this is a moment of advocacy. There were some topics addressed, like charter school funding reform, cyber charter school funding reform. Within the budget, revenue is still a topic of conversation, and so this is a proposal. There will be negotiations over the next few months around not just education, but also other topics such as transportation and energy. And again, revenue for the Commonwealth. And so those topics will be discussed and negotiated. Unfortunately, that is not a public process. And so a lot of those conversations happen in meetings and in privacy. And so we will certainly track this as a board. We will, as I've mentioned before, we have a new if we haven't said this publicly, we have a new advocacy task force that myself and two other members of the board are on to think through strategically and proactively about our advocacy efforts. And so we will take action over the next few months as budget negotiations are happening. And of course, as community members, you all can make your voice heard as well on education and the other topics. We do have state rep and state senator. We have some strong advocates here in Cheltenham, and they, not just what I've said, but they've said in different settings, please, that they're willing and welcome to hear community voice. Their contact information can be found fairly easily online. And please do reach out at your convenience. That will conclude the legislative report for today. We will meet again. If you were tracking, we did meet February 5th. We rejoined officially. And now that the legislators back in session, we will meet more often as well. And I'll bring updates back to our community.
Thank you, Mr. Epps. Now we will move to the approval of our consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved,
So-
Charles Burdell Williams.
Oh, I'm just all out of line. Before we go there, we have the approval of minutes from the January 14th meeting, just off tonight. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved, Jennifer Lohman.
Second, Leah Mulhern.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed,
Aye.
say nay. And so the minutes are approved. Now we will move to the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve that agenda?
So
I'll-
moved, Robin
I'll
Murphy.
maintain my first. Oh, sorry.
Mr.
Mayor
Burdell
Roberts.
Williams, move first.
Yes, please. I want to maintain my first on the approval of the agenda item. Charles Burdell
Ms.
Williams,
Murphy?
thank you.
Ms. Murphy, second.
Then I shall second. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to the vote, any comments from the board?
I do.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes. I just wanted to note the discussion around our track and turf installation, which has been a conversation that has occurred over several months as part of really that got kicked off by the feasibility study and the design process that started earlier or towards the end of last year. The board received feedback and the district received feedback around environmental and health considerations when it comes to artificial turf. And I'm really thankful that that feedback was listened to and that the recommendation here is for organic fill and a turf material that does not have PFAS in it. So just wanted to recognize that since that is part of this vote.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Mr. Burdell Williams?
I want to second what Mr. Schultz said. I did want to, again, just share appreciation for the administration and the how in which they approached addressing the concerns of board members and other folks from the community regarding the spill and potential challenges with PFAS and other inorganic materials that potentially would not have been recyclable and would have not necessarily been in alignment with the board's focus on being more sustainable Cheltenham. And grateful that we are also at a position where we are acquiring those materials and looking at bids at this stage in the game, and that the administration is continuing to prioritize all of the facilities capital projects that we have going in order to stay in alignment with goals set from a timeline perspective to get us to a point where those facilities are useful while also not disruptive during the construction process to the current state of the affairs that we have in the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burdell Williams. Mr. Epps?
Thanks. Third to what was just said, also wanted to point out appreciation for the mentorship services that is part of this agenda. Recently received some questions related to sort of what the district is doing. And so I pointed to our agendas as places where we've approved contracts over the last few months around social and emotional health. We've just heard about MTSS earlier and getting students what they need, right? And so definitely applaud the district, especially related to EPIC and what are the intention there. And so appreciate the fact that we can vote on that tonight and approve what will be adding services to what students need specifically in a way that enriches that inspiration part of our mission. And a shout out to Cynthia Moore, who's being approved for secretary at Cheltenham Elementary. We've had a recent 2-year for our principal. Now we have a secretary that will hopefully, that has already joined the team, and our parents and community have felt the impact of that. So appreciate that that is a step forward in bringing her to the team.
Thank you, Mr. Epps. Mr. Burdell Williams?
Yep, one more really brief comment, and I believe that one of my colleagues may have mentioned this previously, but do want to also highlight the administration's efforts to call out the specific strategic plan pillars by which specific board approval or requests are being made. I think that is a very holistic way to full circle share with the community that the strategic plan is not just something that is nebulous and exists out in the nether, right? It's something that is being actively engaged with on a day-to-day basis and all of the things that are happening in the district, and that the board is able to see those ways in which the connections are being made in the community, I hope, by reviewing some of these items in between the periodic reviews of the strategic plan that we have, can also see that the work is ongoing and continuing and not segmented in any way, but in a way focused on exactly what the district needs to be successful throughout the life of the strategic plan. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Burdell Williams. All right, I will call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any opposed say nay. I'm an aye, and the agenda is approved. Okay, next we will have public comments on non-agenda items. If you are present, attending via Zoom, feel free to raise your hand. You will be unmuted. If you are watching online, you can email CSD board meeting comment@cheltenham.org. And if you are speaking this evening, please announce your name and where you reside in the district. And I don't see anyone in the chat having raised their hands in the participant panel. All right. Our future meetings are as listed on the agenda. And I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Ross Whiting, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. Is there a
Second,
second?
Zachary Epps.
Thank you, Mr. Epps. All in favor? Aye.
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 This meeting is adjourned.